It's easy to assume that when a Hollywood icon with a fortune in the hundreds of millions begins selling their luxurious estates, it signals financial troubles or a downfall. But for Sir Michael Caine, now in his 90s, this decision is a conscious choice rather than a sign of loss. He's parting with the sprawling manors that have served as his sanctuary for decades, grand properties with private cinemas and indoor pools, marking the final chapter in a life story that began in the impoverished streets of post-war London. The boy who saw a prefab as a palace. Before he was the suave, confident icon of the silver screen, he was Maurice Joseph Micklewhite, born in South London to a fish market porter and a cleaning woman. His world was one of pre-war poverty, a cramped flat with no indoor plumbing where the family scraped by on love and resilience. That fragile world was shattered by the Second World War. At just 6 years old, Maurice was evacuated from London, separated from his family, and sent to live with strangers in the countryside. The experience was a nightmare. He was neglected and abused by a host family who would lock him in a cupboard for days at a time, a trauma that left him with lifelong claustrophobia. When the war finally ended, the Micklewhite family was reunited, but their home had been destroyed in the Blitz. The government rehoused them in a neighborhood known as Elephant and Castle, moving them into a small, mass-produced, prefabricated house. To many, these prefabs were a symbol of post-war austerity, but to the young boy, who had known only hardship, this simple structure was a revelation. For the first time in his life, he had electric lights, a small garden, and most importantly, an indoor toilet. It was a quantum leap in dignity and comfort that would forever shape his understanding of what a home truly means. Years later, reflecting on the move that defined his entire perception of wealth, Caine would describe the government-issued housing with a perspective that feels almost alien in today's world of excess. Quote, "The prefabs, as they were known, were intended to be temporary homes while London was reconstructed. But we ended up living there for 18 years, and for us, after a cramped flat with an outside toilet, it was luxury." This foundational experience, the profound feeling of finding a palace in a prefab, would become the moral compass for every financial and personal decision he would make for the next 70 years. But before he could ever dream of buying a house of his own, he had to escape his circumstances and break through a rigid class barrier designed to keep working-class boys like him exactly where they were. The woman in the coffee ad. Armed with a fierce determination forged in poverty, the young man, now calling himself Michael Caine, fought his way into the acting world. In an era where posh, received pronunciation accents were considered mandatory for any actor with serious ambition, Caine stubbornly held on to his distinct Cockney accent. It was more than just his voice, it was a declaration of identity, a deliberate act of defiance against the deeply entrenched English class system that looked down on boys from Elephant and Castle. His authenticity struck a chord, and by the swinging 60s, he was an international star, the epitome of a new kind of British cool. But with global fame came immense pressure and the classic temptations of Hollywood life. By the early 70s, Caine was adrift, drinking heavily and on a path to self-destruction. Little did he know his salvation was about to appear during a commercial break. One evening, while watching television, he saw an ad for Maxwell House Coffee. It featured a woman of such breathtaking beauty, he was instantly captivated. He became obsessed, convinced he had to meet her. Believing the ad was filmed in Brazil, he made plans to fly there to find her, a quest that seemed both romantic and utterly insane. Fortunately, a friend in the advertising industry saved him the airfare, informing him that the model, Shakira Baksh, was not in Brazil, but lived just a few miles away in London. After calling her relentlessly, she finally agreed on a date, and his life changed forever. But behind the scenes, Caine was battling the demons of fame and was drinking 2 bottles of vodka a day. He later confessed Shakira's arrival was nothing short of a rescue mission. Quote, "By an immense stroke of good fortune, Shakira arrived in my life just in time." The empty feeling that had haunted him vanished. With Shakira by his side, he found the stability to not only build a legendary, decades-long career, but a life filled with genuine happiness. The house that Jaws built. For a man whose benchmark for luxury was an indoor toilet, the success he achieved was staggering. It allowed him to provide for his family on a scale he never could have imagined, from acquiring magnificent properties that became legendary in their own right. From 1984 to 99, he and Shakira owned Rectory Farmhouse, a historic 17th century estate in Oxfordshire. Set on over 8 acres with 600 feet of private frontage on the River Thames, it was an English country dream. Caine made significant renovations, adding a modern wing that housed a cinema room, a spa, an indoor pool, and a 16-person sauna. A charming Georgian dovecote on the property was converted into his personal wine cellar, where the shelves still bear the port labels he wrote by hand. Later, for more than 2 decades, his primary residence was Keston Lodge in Surrey, a sprawling 12,000-square-foot converted barn set on a secluded hill with breathtaking views. This estate featured its own sophisticated cinema, a full leisure complex with an indoor pool and gym, and separate 2-bedroom cottages for staff and guests. These were not just houses, they were private kingdoms. Yet Caine never lost his working-class pragmatism. He always saw his acting as a job, and the money it generated as a tool for providing security. The attitude was never more apparent than when he took a role in the 1987 film Jaws: The Revenge. The movie was a critical and commercial disaster, a film so notoriously bad many wondered why an Oscar-winning actor of his stature would agree. Caine's response revealed everything about his priorities. Quote, "I haven't seen it, but I've seen the house it bought my mother, and it's marvelous." For Michael Caine, a house was never just a status symbol, it was security. A smaller house, a bigger life. The truth is, time comes for everyone, even movie stars. Now in his 90s, Sir Michael Caine is facing the inevitable challenges of aging. He's been open about his battle with spinal stenosis, a painful condition that narrows the spaces within the spine, putting pressure on the nerves and severely affecting his mobility. Once the effortlessly cool star who strode across the screen, he's now often seen using a walking stick or a frame to get around, a humbling reality that makes navigating a massive multi-story estate an exhausting daily challenge. This physical reality, combined with a profound shift in his personal priorities, led to a momentous decision. In 2022, Caine and his wife Shakira announced they were downsizing, putting a lifetime of treasured possessions up for auction at Bonhams in London. Movie posters, his iconic spectacles, his personal Rolex, and even his desk went under the hammer. It was a conscious act of letting go of the past to make room for the present. The sale of Keston Lodge was the final, biggest piece of this puzzle. The sprawling estate, once a paradise where his young grandchildren could, quote, disappear instantly and just go running around, had served its purpose. For a man who has owned some of the most spectacular homes in England, the decision to trade it all for a smaller house might seem baffling. But when asked why he was leaving his beloved country estate, Caine's answer was heartbreakingly simple and utterly relatable. Quote, "Because the grandchildren have all gone now, they're all growing up." He's moving to a more manageable home in Wimbledon to be closer to his daughter Natasha and her family. The logic is undeniable. Why live in an empty palace far away when you can live in a comfortable home just down the road from the people you love the most? In the end, there is a beautiful, poetic symmetry to his life. The boy from Elephant and Castle, who found unimaginable luxury in a small prefab surrounded by his family, is now at the end of his incredible journey seeking that exact same luxury again. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Michael Caine? Let us know in the comments section below.